Yeah, I think there's a lot of value too, and like in Diablo of going max block. I think it's very underrated. Um, like it was one of those things that I used to be like full vite too. You know what I mean? Like just full vita and a lot. And it's still the right thing to do with some builds too. Like, you know, even in PvP, like if you're good with a certain build, it's like still good to go full vita. Like I'm not sure if you've ever. I'm not sure if you've ventured into the dueling land of like dueling necros or druids or whatnot, but sometimes they can get away with going full vita just because of their dueling style. Like, you know what I mean? But every time I played with like a as a sorceress or, you know, even a paladin or really any character of mine, I've always been like, I'm gonna get cracked by a fucking paladin and I'm going to block. I am not going to just get stun locked this entire time. I think, but you know, even if it's not PvP, like PVM, I think it's very underrated too. Like, you know, especially with characters where you're telly stomping like a pack of monsters. If you're going through and you're like, you know, doing the grind to 99, let's say, like you're probably going through and head hunting in chaos. You know what I mean? Like you're killing the boss packs. You know, and with builds like a hammered in or even a poison necro, like, you know, you have to kind of get obnoxiously close sometimes to monsters. And in a very crowded place like chaos, I think it's underrated, you know, to have max block in those instances because that's where you're going to get cracked. Like the spells in chaos are like, you know, they'll do some damage to you. The Venom Lords can like burn you down with fire and stuff, but like equally as important as that 75 resist is 75% block because, you know, I'm not sure if you've ever tried to telly stomp Desace with like a Hammerden or whatnot, but even if you have max block, that shit can hurt.
I've done it and like, I've died instantly from it. Yeah. The only time I ever do max block usually is with the Hammerden or with a Paladin. Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't dabble in PvP. I'm not man enough to be handling stuff like that. But I don't know why.
Well, even with the firewall sorceress build that I had, or you know, early on in D2R, I went max block because, like many other people, I realized how insanely powerful firewall was. Like, you know, right out the gate. And one of the things that you have to be careful with, or you have to monitor a bit with firewall, is like you have to make sure that your target doesn't move much, right? So like when you're going up against bosses, which is what Firewall's insane for killing, like they love to move around. Like Mephisto, I mean, you might notice it when you're trying to moat trick him and stuff like that. Like he moves around a lot. Like, you know, he's always moving. But what stops these bosses from moving is when you telly stomp them and you get like really close and they're like, oh, okay, he's right here. Let's hit him. Well, a max block build is great for that. Like, so I was rocking a max block sorceress, you know, just because that was the strategy. Like, you know what I mean? I'm going to stomp this boss and be obnoxiously close. And like, I'm going to block 75% of the things that he throws my way. It's like, you know, I think there's a lot of game theory you could do with that too, you know, because although you get a lot more life dumping everything into vitality, it's like, okay, but by dumping more into dexterity, how many hits do you just never take that you would have otherwise taken?